Right, so I thought I'd just start this update off by taking a quick look at something I've actually built in between this and the last update, and that is I've reworked the monorail station, because I did actually mention at the end of the last update that I wasn't really happy with it. I just thought the shaping was a bit too basic. So I've reworked it, and it's now at a point where I'm happy with it with the parts that I have available to me. It is of course going to need finishing off later on in the update, but that's like the rest of the mock, and hopefully that is going to be something I'm able to get onto, but there's still a fair bit to do before then, including the GCPD and the building that houses the motor for the lift. Now, it's going to be a real bit of a struggle because I'm running quite low on loads of different parts. It's just going to be really challenging to make sure that I am actually able to finish the mock, but without further ado, it's time to get back to making some progress on the mock. Right, so I'm going to do a really quick progress update on what I've built so far. So the main thing is obviously the GCPD, and I'm quite happy with it, and it's almost reaching a height that is pretty much finished. Now, the problem with that is I originally intended to add on another floor, which would be the GCPD officers, Commissioner Gordon's office and so on. But what ended up happening is I decided to add a sort of rafters area, because I didn't really know what I was doing with it. I was just experimenting. So I added in that rafters area, and what it's kind of resulted in is the GCPD now being almost as tall as I originally intended it to be, with that second upper level on it. So I've decided not to build that at the minute, but to move on to the other buildings for the top level, because when they're finished and the whole upper level's then for a bit more built up, it'll allow me to kind of see whether it's going to look out of proportion or not to make the GCPD any taller, and also whether I even have the parts left to add on another level when it's not crucial. So that's what I'm going to move on to. And obviously we've got the building at the back, which I've not really decided what that's going to be. I don't think it's going to be any specific building, but it is going to house the motor for the lift. And then at the front I'm going to have a Joker hideout. Now, another thing I've had to work on is I originally had the 2 power packs for USB lights, which I'm going to have on the upper level, housed in the GCPD, but I decided really that wasn't going to work, because then I just have sort of all the lights focused over on the left hand side, when really I want them spread a little bit more evenly around the top level. So I've ended up deciding to add them inside the dark green apartment building, but what that's meant is I did have to change the structure slightly, and then also build brick built doors so you can't see inside those 2 floors. But I am quite happy with how those brick built doors turned out. The upper level is still going to need an interior, but that's something I'll come back to near the end of the mock. But without further ado, it's time to get back to building. This update's turning out to be quite lengthy, so I thought I'd just do another progress update because I'm now at the point where all the main structures of the MOC are in place. So from now, just all I've got to do is go back through the whole of the MOC and just finishing all the areas off, just neatening it up, tiling, adding the details, etc. But what I've been working on in this last little segment is two main structures. One is the clock tower, which has Joker's hideout up at the top. Now it's not as large as I'd like it to be. I had a few more ideas of what I could do with the Joker hideout, but I've actually changed the positioning of this, which meant I swapped the position of the dark green building another time. I think that's now moved 3 or 4 times. I've clearly had no idea what I was doing, but that meant the inside of the clock tower now houses the power pack for the lights, so that took up quite a lot of the interior of that building. So the Joker's hideout is sort of put aside just to the top area, but there are a few interesting details in there, and one of my favourites is the hatch that I put on the top. But then the other building that I was working on is the more modern tower at the back here, and similarly this changed a lot as I was building it. I had no idea what I was doing. I was just trying to figure something out that I could actually build with the bricks that I have got left, and what I've worked out I'm actually quite happy with. And now this building is sort of going to be Penguin's sort of office, or Penguin's sort of kind of penthouse, but then I've also got a kitchen here as well, so maybe some part of the iceberg lounge. It's not really too specific, but it's just what I could fit into the space, because similarly to the clock tower, there is a lot of this building taken up by electronics here for the motor, the power pack and the IR receiver for the lift mechanism. Now I've also decided not to extend the GCPD to have another floor. Just now that the MOC is sort of taking a complete shape, it seems clear to me that I can't really make the GCPD any taller, because you may have noticed I've added Wayne Penthouse on top of Wayne Tower, but I've done it at that condensed scale to sort of play with proportion and play with scale in the MOC to make the whole thing actually seem bigger. Now I think it's quite effective. It was a bit risky because I'm not sure if it's going to work, because obviously most of the MOCs at sort of a compressed minifig scale, and then this is a micro scale. If I made the GCPD any taller and still had the bat signal on the top with possibly minifigures positioned next to it, I think it'd be just in too close proximity to the micro scale penthouse. It would make the fact that the proportions are wrong stand out. But what I have done is obviously added the bat signal on the top, which I'm very happy with, and then I've sort of altered the top overhang section just to save some more bricks, but I'm not really very happy with it, so I might go back and alter that a little bit just to add a bit more detail and make it look a little less basic. So Gotham is finally complete, and I'm really happy to be able to say that, because although I've only been working on Gotham since Christmas, this whole stop motion project has now been spanning for over a year, so I'm really happy to have this part of that project now complete, so I'm able to move on to the final stages of this stop motion project and trying to get it finished at last. Now, although I'm now moving on to that stage, it's not going to be a few weeks before it's finished. It's probably going to be 1 or 2 months, unfortunately. I just really don't want to underestimate how long it's going to take me to get it finished. So you will have to bear with me, but hopefully it will all pay off in the end. Now once the stop motion is out, I will of course have the MOC showcase for this MOC, so I won't go through the whole MOC at the moment, although I'm sure you're very keen to see all the different areas, because even the bits that I've shown in the past in earlier updates have now been finished off. But I will save that all for the MOC showcase, because that is a very long video to film in and of itself, so I don't want to do that at the moment. But of course what I have been working on this update, which I'll give you a quick look at now, is of course this top level, finishing it off, doing some of the building, and then also finishing off all the rest of the MOC, which has really been a challenge because towards the last stages of the MOC I've been really running out of some of those crucial pieces that you always need. You always need so many of just the basic pieces like the light bluish, dark bluish grey tiles, the plates, the bricks. When you start running out of those pieces, it gets really hard to build because you're just constantly trying to search for those pieces, because I do have some other boxes full of unsorted Lego which I still haven't got around to sorting. But when it gets to those latter stages, before I go and order a bricklink, I'm always searching to try and find it so I don't have to spend more money for parts that I potentially have. But I managed to do it in the end. I managed to get the MOC finished. There is a few pieces that need to be ordered from a bricklink just because I couldn't find them anywhere, but I've now done that, and once they arrive it'll probably only take me 20 minutes just to swap those parts out, and then the MOC will be fully complete. So I mentioned just a moment ago about towards the end of the MOC running really low on loads of vital parts just to be able to build the MOC, build anything really, and you can see here an example of that is this box here usually contains 1x2, 1x1 and 1x3 tiles in all colours essentially, and you can see I'm completely ran out of light bluish grey, dark bluish grey pieces. Another example of that is here, this tub here is usually absolutely full of these pieces, almost overflowing when I've got no MOC built, but you can see now there's only one left. It might be slightly difficult to tell how many pieces this Gotham MOC has used up from my collection, especially when you've not seen how full the drawers are when I haven't got a MOC built. For me personally, I think this is the emptiest I've seen all of these drawers. I mean, you can see a lot of the drawers are completely empty here, and just so many different parts that I've used up entirely. And here's all my jumper plates, and you can see I've only got one dark bluish grey one left. It's just so many different examples like that. But I'm really happy that I was able to finish Gotham, because you remember the last Gotham MOC I built, I just had to end it eventually because at that time I overestimated how many parts I had in my collection and I just wasn't able to finish it. But this time that just wasn't really an option, not finishing the MOC, because of course the whole rest of the stop motion is relying on this MOC being complete, of course. As mentioned, I do still have these massive boxes full of unsorted pieces, so when I am running low on just parts and I need that one part just to complete a section, I have to go and look through here. It can be really frustrating, and I wish I do really want to get round to sorting all of this, but it's just something I never get round to because something like this is it's going to take at least a week to get through. What really helped me get over the edge were these two boxes here, which I actually inherited from my cousin who gave them to me for free, which was really kind of him, and they've helped massively. Just so many parts in here that have been really helpful just to help me get over the line and finish the MOC without having to make a huge bricklink order. I would have liked to have sorted all this stuff as soon as I got it really, just to prevent the unsorted stuff that I do have building up, but I just wanted to concentrate on getting the MOC finished, so this will be something I'll probably sort out once the stop motion's finished. So just before I end this update, I did mention at the end of the last video that I was just going to answer a few questions from the comments just about the MOC and about the stop motion film, because I am going to be gone for a little bit now. Now here's a question from H, who says, "It's looking great and thanks a lot for the kind words, but also they say, do you know how long the stop motion film will be, and what are the villains that will be in the film, and what are the Bat family members as well?" So on the first point of how long the film will be, now I'm really not too sure now, but I reckon it might be pushing 20 minutes perhaps, more likely 10 to 15 minutes, so it's going to be around about that length. Now that might sound surprisingly short for how long I've been working on it, but I've never made a stop motion film before, so I'm really not quite sure how long it might be. Could be longer than 20 minutes, but I really do doubt that. But the reason it's just taken so long is because all of the sets that I've had to build as part of it, always trying to maintain a high level detail in those sets, and also because it's the first time I've done something on this scale with stop motion, I've had to, you know, learn how to do it as I've gone along, which has obviously meant it's taken longer. But I'm actually going to go into all the intricacies of the stop motion process and the process of making the film, including the storyboards, the script stages, finding the voice actors and all that, after the stop motion's come out with a behind the scenes video. So if you've got any questions related to that, hopefully I'll answer them when that video comes out. Now, it's questions about what are the villains that will be in the film and what are the Bat family members. Now, the main villain of the film I don't really want to give away at this stage because it is a slight twist within the film, but all that I can say is a large number of the villains that LEGO has produced as official minifigures are in the film. Not many of them take a main role at all, but they all are in the background of the film in little scenes or in group scenes and so on. Now, the Bat family members will really only Batman and Alfred, because this film takes place prior to the Bat family really being established. I mainly chose to set it in that time period as that tends to be the sort of status quo of Batman that I personally prefer, but also the story of the film doesn't really require any Bat family members at all. So unfortunately there's not going to be any Bat family members, so if they are your favourite characters, I am sorry to say they're not going to be in the film, but hopefully you'll still enjoy the story with Batman and Alfred. So I have another question here. Now, I don't think I'm going to be able to pronounce this name, so I'll just put it on the screen, but they say, when you finish the film, will you make any sequels, because they would love to see a LEGO film series set in the Gotham City. And thanks a lot for the kind words as well. Now, at the minute, I'm not planning on making any sequels because I've put so much into this singular film, such a long period of time now, every year. I don't think I've ever worked on a singular project for this long, that I can't imagine me wanting to make any sequels immediately, because once this is finished, I probably want to move on to doing something that isn't necessarily DC related, and maybe go back to Star Wars or something like that. But you never know, I might suddenly come up with another story and decide to make a sequel. But that would involve, because a lot of the film doesn't just take place in this Gotham, it takes place in a lot of other sets, which I've now broken up, of course, to use the parts to build this Gotham. That would be a real challenge if I wanted to reuse any of the sets I've now broken up, like the Wayne Penthouse interior set, which you'll of course see in the film. So that is going to be something that might not be possible, but if there's loads of support for the stop motion, it turns out really good, because I don't know how it's going to turn out really at the moment, because I'm still filming it, I've not started editing it at all. But if it turns out really well, I might come up with another story and decide to make another one. I just don't know at the moment. But that is going to bring this update to an end. I do hope you enjoyed it, and I do hope you stay tuned for those videos on the way. Now, of course, the next video will be the stop motion, but however, I think I'm going to do a trailer just before that, just so the stop motion doesn't come out of nowhere, because that's what it will look like, because I probably won't have a video for maybe a month or so from this point. But I do hope you enjoyed this update. Thank you so much for watching.